everybody, and welcome to Analysis. And we have such a special broadcast for you today. Of course, Christie Desfontaine is here as usual, but we have a very, very special guest today. Doobie Sabbo from Israel is joining us, and we're going to be looking at a prophecy, and we've actually cut it up into 3 different sections. And we're going to be looking at a prophecy from September 15th of 2012, and that's why we've invited Doobie, and Christie, of course, is here, and we're going to be discussing that. So welcome, Christie and Doobie. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great. Christie, she said Christie first. So.
Well, Doobie, there we go.
Doesn't matter.
Doing good, just, obviously watching everything that's unfolding, and obviously very excited to have Doobie with us today because he is phenomenal and brilliant. But I know, Donné, like you said, we're going to be looking at these prophecy clips of your dad's, which are actually mind-blowing. And I know I say that all the time, but we're going to get stuck into them. But first, there's a news clip that we want to play you because we saw President Trump hosting Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu at the White House this week. And so we want to go to a quick news clip about that. And then when we come out, we're definitely going to have Doobie weigh in and give us his thoughts about this meeting that took place. So let's go to that news clip now.
Mr. President, I want to first thank you for inviting me again to the White House. You've been a remarkable friend of the State of Israel. You stand by us. You're standing with us. You are a great, great champion of our lives. And you actually do the things that you say you do. And I think that people respect that enormously. I certainly do, and the people of Israel do. And I think the Jewish people do as well. We just saw your representative in the Department of Justice fighting antisemitism, standing up for Israel in international forums. I just want you to know from the heart, it's deeply, deeply appreciated.
Wow. So it's, you know what, it's not just great to hear that, but also to know how much my dad prophesied about Israel and about Netanyahu himself and about what would happen with America and Israel as they stood together. And so to see this, just that alone, and what Bibi was saying, thanking Donald Trump for being a friend to Israel, for being a friend to the Jewish people. But when you see this meeting, Doobie, what do you think, and what are your feelings on what's going on here?
First and foremost, Donné, I have to admit that we were waiting for 4 dark years, very dark years, for Donald Trump to return back to the White House. On his first term, he was the best president for Israel ever. And then there were the 4 very slim years, that we were in a very tough situation with the American administration. And when the war broke, when so many bad things happened to Israel, and just to see this meeting and to see these 2 champions, the 2 men that your dad prophesied about so many times, getting together for really the betterment of America and Israel together. And to see Bibi coming back to the White House twice, a second time in 2 months, which you never see any other politician or head of state meeting with Donald Trump so fast twice. It means a lot to open the doors for Bibi to come back to the White House. It shows you how much of God lies inside the heart of Donald Trump. When he opened the door for the Prime Minister of Israel, for the King of Israel of today, it just shows you that he has the heart of a king from above to open for Israel, to open his heart. But what you didn't show on this clip, and this is what is very important for us Israelis, is that Trump and Netanyahu were talking and discussing about how they can work together in order to push Turkey away from the borders of Israel. Israel has been infiltrated by so many terrorists, in the past 1.5 years. And literally now, the more and more enemies of Israel are closing on us. And the situation with Turkey is not very good right now. But Donald Trump has personal relationship with Turkey, and even said in that meeting that he likes Erdogan and he has a way for Erdogan, and he can definitely be in the center, try to negotiate a deal between Israel and Turkey concerning Syria, because Turkey is coming closer into Syria and trying to close on Israeli borders from the north and from the east. And Donald Trump is the right man right now, the man of the hour that can really work something between the escalating expressions of Erdogan against Israel and what they mean behind their closed curtains. And I think that this is what is very important. And that's mainly, besides the tariffs and stuff like this, the main reason that Bibi really came back to America is to speak about Iran and to speak about Turkey.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And you know what? It was a very difficult time under the last administration. And to see God put Donald Trump back, and then to see how Donald Trump is actively working to try to help, understanding the depth of the situation and how necessary it is. It was very relieving, actually, to see them together talking about this, making a plan, both in front of us and, like you said, behind closed doors. That gives me a sense of relief, because I get what you're saying, Doobie, that we have some kind of hope now, whereas in the last 4 years before, it was very frightening, and we can't forget that October 7th happened in that time as well, and the repercussions of that, and it is a complex situation. I mean, when I'm watching it and I'm keeping my eye on it all the time, it is so complex and so deep and also so spiritual. And many people don't, miss that side of it, especially if you are not a person who pays attention to that there's a spiritual warfare going on as well. There's so many elements to this. And Donald Trump does understand that. And so that, again, is relieving. But you know what? My dad prophesied about America, Israel, and Turkey. And this is the prophecy I referenced when we first started. It was on September 15th of 2012. And I mean, this prophecy is so profound that we're not just going to play the whole thing for you. We've broken it up into a few sections. And so I want to play for you the first video clip that we have from September 15th of 2012 of my dad prophesying about America, Israel, and Turkey. So let's have a look at that and we'll come back.
Israel! Again you are surrounded by enemies. But today, watch how I, the Lord, can change the heart of mankind. You must stand alone. Why? So that I can prove myself that I am the Lord, and I have stood with you for millennia, and I will stand with you again. In the month of October, I will arise and shake the enemies of Israel, says the Lord.
This blew my mind, because again, this was September of 2012, and he's speaking about Israel standing alone. Now, what have we watched, especially in the last 4 years? We've seen this happen in front of our eyes, and we're talking about more than 10 years ago. There it is, Kim Clement, yet again, the 10-year plus mark. And the thing that really got me, now Doobs, obviously Passover is coming up. It's starting actually, this weekend it starts. But something that really got me was he speaks about the enemies of Israel being shaken in October. Now, that might sound strange because it was the 7th of October that we saw the attacks happen on Israel, but simultaneously, when you look at it from this perspective, the enemies of Israel were shaken. It's because of what happened in October that we saw the links between UNRWA and Hamas. It's because of this that so many things have been exposed. It's been something that, even though you're always going to have deniers, and that when you look at what's happened, the degree of the tunnel systems have been exposed. When you think about what happened then with the pages going off and all these different enemies being marked, what Hamas thought would be a certain victory has turned into a shaking of that regime, a shaking not just of them, but of so many others connected to them. And I just found that absolutely incredible when we watched this back and when we were looking at the transcript, because I was actually looking for something that your dad prophesied about Turkey, Donné. And it was when I saw this and saw this portion, in the month of October, I will arise and shake the enemies of Israel. Yes, it's horrific. But Doobs, I mean, maybe you can even say something here. We were speaking about it on Israel Update a couple of weeks ago about the link here between what happened now and Passover.
Yeah, I mean, you know, first and foremost, we have to always remember and always understand that the prophetic is coming to enlighten us in a way that we couldn't be learning in the natural. And that's the beauty of the prophetic, is that there is something that we can hold on to when there's a word coming from God through a prophet. There is something that the people would be more alert and more looking for the fulfillment of this prophecy with a lot of expectations, and therefore we will sharpen our senses to be able to even get the little nuances. And you know, when he's speaking about October, for many people, Israel was shook on October. They don't see, like you did just unpack now, Christie, that the enemies were shaken on October. Yes, they did attack us and surprise us on October 7th. But since then, throughout October, we shook the enemies of Israel to the extent that we took down the leadership of the enemies, both in Lebanon and in Gaza. We took down the courage of the Iranians to come and attack us because they were trying to send and launch rockets and missiles towards Israel. Hundreds of them that were intercepted and nobody died in Israel. They woke up to a new reality. They were thinking that they'll have all these drones and all these missiles and they'll be able to threaten and intimidate Israel and put us down to our knees. But we were standing alone for a season when we were attacked. But later on, an international coalition of even countries that are not standing with Israel normally, even even Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, were helping Israel by letting the American troops and the American operators to operate from their territory to intercept the rockets that were launched into Israel. So many things happened due to this attack in October, and definitely it shook the enemies of Israel. And you know, this is connected very well to the Passover that we are facing right now, because the whole idea that Kim was talking about is that when Israel will stand alone, this is when God could really show his magnificence. And he showed it more than any other season in the world and history of Israel, when he brought us and redeemed us from slavery in the hands of the enemies, in the hands of pharaohs. God himself, and only God himself, who struck the Egyptians 10 times and took the people of Israel and split the sea for Moses. This was the most magnificent show of God's ability to act alone on behalf of his beloved people and his chosen people, Israel. And I think that this is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing history in the happening. We're seeing how God, out of the blue, some people will say, brought Donald Trump back again into the White House, just like Kim prophesied 2 terms, and everybody were mocking us when he wasn't, doing it consecutively. But we have seen that happening. These are things that only God can make. And that's why it is important to see now how it is happening, that Israel stood alone for such a long time. And now again, we see that Donald Trump is getting Bibi back into the White House, negotiating a way that America could collaborate with Israel. By the way, Bibi Netanyahu was the first foreign head of state who ever came to the White House for this term of Donald Trump, and he's back again in 2 months.
Amazing.
This is a huge message to every enemy of Israel: beware.
Yes.
It most certainly is, Doobie. That's exactly correct. And you know what? Speaking of the enemies of Israel, we actually have more prophecy from that day, September 15th, 2012, that addresses just that. So let's have a look at that prophecy, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
And from the very caves of hell, the very dungeons, these words are being uttered. everything we can. Why don't they just act? Why don't they just strike at Israel? What more can we do? We plan. We stir the hearts with hatred. And yet, light continually shines. We must do something, lest we be punished. What? Israel? We have infiltrated the minds of the Christians to believe that God has forsaken Israel, and yet, as we convert one, another gets converted to understand the glory. I have a reputation to keep. Says the spirit of ancient. Why do these Daniels constantly come back? Why do these Davids constantly come back and resurrect in the bodies and minds of others? Oh, that we would slay them just once. Finally, when Joseph appears again, and Paul, that scoundrel, they're all over. What do? The prophet hears into our chambers. We've stirred in Colorado. We've stirred in Wisconsin. We've stirred in Las Vegas. We've stirred the Gulf. We have stirred Chicago. We are stirring, and yet they arise, these menaces, praying. And just one word strikes the very core of our being. The earth is in array. And yet we hear sounds. We must go. Try one more time with a strong king. Whisper in his house to believe a lie. Hitler has surfaced. In Iran, Syria, Turkey. Why not America? They continually say what their forefathers said. We cannot wipe it out of their minds. We have taken over national media. Yet there's that stinking fox and other righteous ones. Let us return and work.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, I just have to say before anything, what he is addressing here, I am witnessing on the conservative side as well. You know, the left, you see the anti-Semitism on the left and those fools supporting Hamas and all this nonsense. And they're deceived and we can forget about them. But there is on the right, you see even, there's this infiltration. And when he says, why not America? We have infiltrated the minds of Christians to believe that God has forsaken Israel. And I do see that. It's a small amount of people, but I see it. And I recognize the spirit in it. And it's a lie. And when he brings up Hitler again, Hitler surfacing in Iran, Syria, and Turkey, we know that. But to see that starting to emerge, even on the conservative side, in America is very concerning. And it's very comforting to me to know that God was expecting this and that it's going to be dealt with. And so I just wanted to say that before we continue our discussion, because I know, Doobie, you're going to want to address some things as well as Christie. But I know I've noticed this. And I also found it interesting that the regions of America that he listed there, Colorado, Wisconsin, Las Vegas, the Gulf, and Chicago. And then you look in those regions and you see what's going on there now. And for my dad to be prophesying this in 2012, it wasn't happening then. Or if it was, nobody. So now we know how accurate this prophecy is, and the plans of the enemy, and I think back to World War II and to what happened with Hitler and with the propaganda against the Jewish people and the lies that were told, and that same spirit has risen up again and is attempting again to do this. I think of the Fourth Reich prophecies even, and so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about this, Doobie.
You know, Donné and Christie, we addressed this a few weeks ago in our Israel update channel. We spoke about the same spirit of Hitler and the Nazis that's infiltrated into the homes and houses of the new anti-Semites, because the Nazi system was the education system to do the Hitlerite youth movements, to infiltrate the minds of the young people and to literally educate them and just train them from their youth years to hate the Jews. And that's exactly what is happening. Your dad mentioned areas and regions where you see that most of the universities in these areas, in these cities, were literally protesting against Israel. The youth over there, Christian youth as well, joining hands with the Muslims, the Arabs, the leaderships. These places are mostly financed by Qatar and Qatarian money. And that's something that your dad has seen in the spirit, and literally the whole system of Hitler to go first after the minds and the brains of the youth, and from there to infiltrate into the mainstream media, and even like you said, conservative media channels, because that's what they were showing. Now, you think that they would show some stuff and then people will look at whatever channel is showing it and will listen to whatever the criticism is or whatever the analyzers are saying. No, people will see the mob, people will see them chanting, and this is what will catch their eyes. You know, they always say there's no bad publicity as long as they spell your name right. And that's the biggest story there. They brought, even in the conservative channel, they brought awareness to the floods and the waves of hatred towards Jews throughout the universities in the US, which literally made people think and believe, hey, listen, everyone in America is against Israel and the Jewish state, you know?
That's right, Doobie. And you know what? I remember, you know, it's the same year he prophesied. You know, today we're looking at 2012 in September. And you were with me when Dad sent us in 2012 in the summer, which was in July, and we went to Auschwitz. And I remember thinking, why is he sending me to these places? Now I understand, you know, and I know you do too, because you were with me. And I remember saying to my dad, why don't you go with us? Why don't you come with us, Dad? And he couldn't. And I think even that was prophetic, because today we sit here together and he is not with us. But here we see the warning that was given. And it was very significant for me to actually go there to Auschwitz and see it. It had a lifelong impact on me as a person. And I think anybody who goes there, it's so much of an impact, I don't want to go back. And if you remember, Doobie, I was newly pregnant. I just found out I was pregnant. And if you remember when we were in the museum, I had to leave because I was so overcome with grief that I wept when I saw the children's shoes like that. And I knew a child was in my womb, and I thought of these things. And so for me to sit here in 2025 with you and to see what is happening across America is shocking. Because at the time, if you remember, the BBC was there, and they had the survivor, Kitty.
Yes,
If you remember that. And Kitty was saying, it'll happen again, it'll happen again. And she listed Syria and Turkey.
Yes.
Those are the countries she wore, and she was so old, but she had been a child in Auschwitz.
Yes.
And there we were speaking to her, and that was a very prophetic and significant moment that we shared together, and I will never forget it. And because of that, when I look at what's happening now, I can see clearly, and it's easy for me not to be deceived, because I recognize the feeling. The feeling I felt when I stood in Auschwitz is the feeling I feel when I see these people do this. And to see that that is happening in the United States of America is beyond what I ever imagined. But my father prophesied it because God knew what was coming, and he made sure, not only my dad prophesying it, but he made sure that when we went on that trip that we met that lady Kitty.
You know,
And had that experience.
Yeah, you know something? You asked your dad to come, and he said to you that he couldn't, but he spoke to me because I also was talking to him, because he sent us to all kinds of different missions, and me on my own sometimes. Then he would join me, and he went even to Ukraine and other places. But during that time, when your father made the linkage, which was so critical for people to understand, I think he's the first person who ever did that, is the connection between the prophetic and boots on the ground. He would go to places whenever it was time to go to places, and he would pray over these places and protection like he did with Israel and everything. When I asked him, this is the most significant and critical journey that you're doing, prophesying about a Fourth Reich where nobody's really speaking about that. You should be there with us in Germany, in Auschwitz, in Poland, all these places. And he told me, and he says, listen, Doobie, boots on the ground doesn't mean always to be outside of your own country. I have to be here with my boots on the ground in America for protection for America right now. I cannot go there physically with my mentals to these areas. I'm sending my firstborn is as if my DNA is if I am there. I'm sending Donné there to be, but I need to be here, boots on the ground in America, to protect from these spirits to come into America.
Right, Doobie. That's exactly right. It actually makes me quite emotional. I'm remembering it now and understanding the significance of it all these years later. I'm so grateful that I had that experience. Although, again, I would never go back, because that is horror, and that horror can never happen again. We cannot allow that. I mean, October 7th, Doobie, that's all I could think about on October 7th too. And even now I get emotional because it tears at my heart.
You know, when your dad is speaking,
anyway.
Your dad is speaking about the pits of hell and about from the caves. And the allegory for me is the tunnels of Hamas, is the tunnels of Hezbollah, is the tunneling that all the enemies of Israel are sitting down there plotting inside these tunnels, inside these tunnels of Hamas that has been revealed to Israel under the Shifa hospital in Gaza, so-called hospital, where the headquarters of Hamas. This is where they were literally sitting and planning. We found their computers, we found their notes, we found their books, their journals, everything. This was from the pits of hell, from the caves of the devil. This is where they planned and executed their attack over Israel. And I'm sure that in the spirit, your father was there and he saw it in the happening.
He did. And, you know, it's so emotional and it's so moving. I mean, I know Donné and I we go through this, you know, on these shows, just thinking about what it is that happened. And even that Kim said Hitler has surfaced in America, at the time it seemed insane to say that. But the fact that we've seen what we've seen on college campuses, the fact that we're seeing this level of antisemitism is absolutely insane. But the thing that I want to bring to everybody's attention, which is kind of what I do every week that we do this, God showed Kim things that were unparalleled. Nobody else was seeing what he was seeing, to the degree he was seeing it, the way he was seeing it, the detail. And it was because he was called to be God's voice on the earth for a time such as this. We are part of that future. Yes, we've lost him. It's going to be something that we carry with us for the rest of our lives. But I do want to encourage you, when you sow into this ministry, you're sowing into the future. Not just the future of the earth, but your own personal future. future. So I'm encouraging you. There's a red link below your player. You can click that link to give. You can text your gift. You can, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. You can also join our partnership. $7 a month, you're going to open up the Prophecy Vault and be able to look at so many things. There's a lot of extra things that we've got in there. But I really do want to encourage you. What these prophecies that we've heard before, you can see the way it's even moved Donné today, and even watching it in the last couple of days, it really impacted me as well. And I was kind of sitting there, sort of like Donné, sitting here feeling, emotional, crying. That's what I was going through, looking at it and watching it, just thinking, God, you saw all of this. You sent your prophet to prophesy these things, and the way he was even doing that, it was so evident that he was hearing what was going on in the enemy camps. It's so evident that he was hearing that. So I'm encouraging you, when you sow into us, when you sow into House of Destiny, you're sowing into the legacy that is Kim Clement. You're sowing into the things that he saw and the future that God showed him. So sow now, give now, and know that what you're doing is counting in eternity. And, Donné, I know that, your dad saw something else here about Israel, which is the final clip we want to play of prophecy, so don't leave us yet. But there is one final prophecy clip that I think fills us with faith and with hope, where we've seen, he prophesied about the chaos that we've seen happen. Doobs wants to say something before we go to that clip.
1 second before, now it resonates in me when you repeatedly said that he heard what was going on and he saw what was happening. And yes, now I know that he had, not just like I said before, he has been there, he had seen the tunnels of Hamas, he had seen how Hitler was surfaced. They can go back to every news clip that came from the first days that Israel entered into Gaza. In every home, they found the book, the copy of Mein Kampf, the book of Hitler in Arabic. In every home in Gaza, children on the bookshelves, they have found the book of Mein Kampf, and people can research it and say, Israeli soldiers were blown away. They didn't believe what we were seeing in their own eyes. In the children's rooms, in every home, there was a copy of the book of Hitler.
That is just unimaginable, Doobie. It's unimaginable. But you know what? This is another reason I get emotional when I see you, because you and I have had that, we have a bond from those experiences we've had together. And that's why I'm so glad to see you today too. But you know what? In these prophecies, it's not just warnings, but there is actually hope. And that's something that's why we want to play this last prophecy for you guys, because there is actually, it's not just warning and bad. God has given us the warnings. He saw what was going on. He let us know, but there's hope as well. And so let's look at this last clip.
I was caught up into a place of absolute peace. Still, all I could hear was breathing, nothing else, just breathing. It's like some storm had just gone by, and there was still. This is a very crucial time for this nation, America. I kept hearing this breathing. Spirits of unjust men made perfect. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witness watching this moment that Daniel saw and the prophets to see. Again, Israel is forsaken, but not for long.
He's in that cloud.
Yep.
Yeah, now
My Father is in that cloud.
Now he's there.
Yeah.
Oh. My gosh. I'm a bit emotional. You guys have to take it.
I feel the same way. It's,
when you say all you can hear is breathing, and he's in the cloud, it tells you something about the new life that is going to come to everyone, that there is breathing there in the cloud. They're still alive. and they are still with us. There's no darkness. There's only light. There's only breathing. There's only life and light.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging. It's encouraging to know, because there's so many people talking about, when you die, and that's it, and you're gone, and you're, I don't know, decomposed, God knows what, all this crazy stuff that people are saying. But you understand that speaking about the cloud and the breathing and the fresh air and breath,
Yes.
life.
It's the Holy
That's what
Spirit.
we mean, life.
It's chai, it's life,
Yes.
and it's that breath.
Yes.
It's ruach, it's that infilling. And so for everybody watching, this has been, I think, a fantastic broadcast. I'm literally just taking it from here for the sake of Donné, but it's a lot. But we're so grateful to have had Doobie join us. We're so grateful to every single one of you. We could not do this without you and without your support. And we do. We carry the pain of not having Kim in person here every day, every single day without fail. But we know what God showed him, and we hold on to his words because they are more relevant now than when he prophesied them. They really are. What we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're looking back at, it's such intense relevance. And so we thank you for your support. We're grateful to you. Make sure you tune in next week. We're here now. We're doing this for you on Wednesdays. So you can watch us on Wednesdays, analysis on Wednesdays, and then obviously the rest of the shows that run through the week, you can keep up to date with what we're doing. But we say thank you. God bless you. And as you go out this week, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, pray for the wisdom of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and pray that the will of God would be established on earth as it is in heaven. So we say God bless you, and we'll see you next week. Does Jesus care about politics? Wow. Now, I don't think much has divided the nation as much as politics.
Yeah, right.
When I look around and how crazy some people have gone on both sides, I'm not going to point fingers here, both sides. The one thing I really don't believe is that God would want the church divided over something like this.
We need, believe it or not, Democrats. Sorry.
I shall hold my tongue.
Because we need, now, it's a shame when political parties go astray.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we need balance.
Jesus knew who he was, and he knew where he stood and the authority that he walked in. And so he had no problem going to Pilate and releasing and telling him the truth of who Pilate was to him and who he was to Pilate.
Watch now at real-faith.tv.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
We here at the House of Destiny are partnering with you to let our viewers, of course, know about your company. It's Beverly Hills Precious Metal.
Andrew, explain how that works.
So I'll walk you through it right now. So if you go to bh-pm.com, right there on the homepage, you'll see a form that you could fill out. And that form is very important in letting us know how we can help you. So you just put in your first name, last name, email address, phone number. There's a section that says, how did you hear about us? And in there, put Kim Clement. And then there's a portion where you could write a couple of notes down on the bottom. Usually within about 24 to 48 hours, we'll contact you by phone call, and then we'll go over everything with you. This isn't a high pressure deal. We always recommend that if you feel uncomfortable, take a step back, pray about it. You will gain the answers that you need by doing that, and come back to us when you're comfortable.